Hello, this is Dylan with the Embroidery Warehouse, and today we're going to go over our picker and picker assembly. We're going to show what could look like in scenarios where the picker is at the incorrect angle or bent in some cases. Sometimes putting on or removing the table, a few bumps can happen like this, for instance. You can tell our picker here is definitely not moving as it should, and basically with the bobbin in, you'll definitely want your picker to be more going in. Now we're going to go over removing the covers, removing the picker assembly, and replacing this guy. What you'll need today are just a 4mm, some pliers, and a Phillips screwdriver. The first step here would be to remove the cover for the hook guard, hook cover. Terminology, as I learned over the years, is different for almost every state. Now, once I remove this, you can see the picker, the solenoid arm, and the assembly here. Now for the other section will be this assembly here. Now we want to remove this C-clamp off the picker, and that will allow us to be able to remove the two 4mm down here and replace the assembly. Now if you're just replacing the picker itself, it would just need to be this bolt and then this clamp here. So in some cases, some people have the right tool, some people have some tools. One of the tools that you can use, if you have available, is a little picker like this. Now if you don't have one of these, a flathead or those pliers I mentioned earlier, you can be able to remove it. Definitely reach out to us if this bends or breaks, because we can send replacements. Now with this removed and definitely not flying off to where it gets lost, you'll notice that this will separate when it comes out this way. If you don't have enough room to remove this solenoid arm, you can remove these 3 screws to gain better access. Here you can see the solenoid. It's an electromagnet that activates, and this is what moves your picker back and forth. If you're needing to adjust your picker length from the bobbin, you'll make adjustments here by taking off this plate and looking at the length of this from this station, which gives you your picker length. Now with the cover removed, the clamp off, and the solenoid arm unattached, we'll go underneath here and remove the 2 4mm screws. The screws have been removed here. You can see this last screw be removed and the unit get removed itself. Here it is removed. Now you can tell with the 2 screw placements underneath, there is room for sliding adjustment under here, as well as mentioned before, adjusting the picker from the solenoid as well. So this will adjust your base, these bottom screws anchored here, and just depending on how your hook guard is spaced, you'll want to adjust it for so. Now your picker will adjust your trim tail. So just depending on how long it takes that picker to go in and grab that bobbin and make that knot determines how long your tail is going to be. So the shorter in, the quicker it's going to go. So the shorter your tail, the longer out, the longer time it takes, and the longer tail. So slight adjustments here or there really can change how much tails you have or type of knots you have according to how your machine does its trim and knotting. Now, to reattach these items, you'll take your screw, 4mm, and I start with the back one just to get it lined up. And then my second one, just to line it in. Then what I like to do is just kind of slightly reattach this just to hold it in place so I can assure everything's in the correct order. Now this piece here has already been bent, and what I can do with these pliers, and sometimes what I do, I'll put cloth in between them just so I don't get any burrs, and then I can just bend it back. Now in most cases you'll probably request a different part or order a different part, and you're able to do so, just depending on warranty purposes and everything like that. So now I can feel that this is going in pretty smoothly. I can start tightening up my screws down here. Now remember, this only adjusts by so much back and forth. So just depending on how your machine is set up, if you're removing one, you can compare it to the other if you have a multi-head. If not, you can work with one of us directly and get those exact specifications. So as you can see with this, it kind of gets stuck, but we'll make sure everything's back together and see how it feels. Now I can adjust this since it was already bent. I can replace it or adjust it up or down with this screw and this screw. Loosening these, there is a little bit of play with the picker to move up and down. And basically what you want is a smooth in and out motion right there in that center. This one looks pretty good except for that little bit of stickiness, but that's something we'll work on here. So now with a little bit of adjustments, I have a smooth motion. I don't have any metal dragging on top here, and everything seems to be moving just as it should. So what I'll do now is just button everything back up in reverse order of how I just demonstrated how to disassemble. And then we'll do a test run and see how our trims and sew outs look.